What's up, boys? MKTV here. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video. Today we do have an FPL video for you yet again, and it is going to be this time an overhyped FPL picks that maybe, you might think they're a really good option in FPL, but potentially they may not be as good an option in my opinion for whatever reason. Not to say that these are bad picks. If you want to go for a player and you have confidence in them, obviously in FPL, go ahead and do so. But today we're going to be talking about options that aren't as good as you may think, for whatever reason, and kind of explaining why that reason is. If you do enjoy, smash that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel. Without further ado, let's hop straight in the first one. So the first player we're going to be talking about in this one is going to be Kieran Trippier of Newcastle. Now, when you first look at this player, coming in at 6.5 million, had the most points of any defender last season. 198 points last season was a very good total for Kieran Trippier, especially the fact it was his second season in Newcastle, but first proper season or whatever. But yeah, looking at the advantages of this player, so obviously he's a really good defense in Newcastle last year, were solid defense. His attacking threat, he opposed a really good attacking threat. As you can see, 1 goal last season with 9 assists, which is very good for any defender, and obviously a very good one that has a good defense as well is obviously a bonus. 16 clean sheets kept as well, which is very impressive for a side like Newcastle from last season. And also he's going to be nailed on. He's the captain of Newcastle, so he will obviously be playing as much minutes as possible. Obviously with the Champions League this season may not be as nailed on. There could be some rotation there, especially with his age, but for the most part he should definitely be getting a lot of minutes there. So they're the positives. Let's have a little look at some of the disadvantages with this player. So obviously the fixtures for Newcastle at the start of the season are actually very bad. So you can see in game week 1 they do Villa at home, which isn't the worst fixture, but it will be a little bit difficult. Manchester City in the second one away from home. That is going to be probably as difficult as a fixture gets this season. Third, then we do have in game week 3 we have Liverpool at home, so that's a very tough fixture as well for a side like Newcastle. Not saying they can't get a result here, but it just is a very difficult fixture, especially to start the season. Then they have Brighton away, which is a very difficult one as well. At the Amex, it can be difficult at times. Then they also have Brentford at home in the game week 5, which is a very difficult one as well. So 5 really tough games to start the season off. It isn't the best option maybe for Kieran Trippier for the start of the season. So yeah, taking a look at some of the disadvantages, the terrible fixtures. Expensive at 6.5 million, absolutely. Coming in at 6.5 million, he is I do believe the second most expensive defender in FPL this year, which is a little bit surprising, I suppose, but obviously he did get the most points of any last season. Trent coming in at 8 million, him coming in at 6.5. Maybe he is worth it. We will see obviously how it goes. But I just do believe there is some better options to start with. Even if you wanted to go for someone like Botman, 4.5 million, 2 million less, and it's the exact same defense, and that obviously maybe not oppose the attacking threat. But I just believe Kieran Trippier at 35% owned nearly. I don't know if it's actually the best option. A lot of people have him in the team, obviously because of how many points he got last year. I just think you could spend your money a little bit better with this one. And I just think, even Fabian Schär opposes a lot of attacking threat with goals from headers and stuff. I just think he might even be a little bit better option. But for now, I would stay away from Kieran Trippier. Maybe throughout the season he does become a very good option. But with the difficult fixtures, he is someone I would not be looking to pop into my Game Week 1 team. The next player we're going to be talking about is going to be John Stones of Manchester City. Now this is a lot of one. This is one that kind of started as a differential throughout FPL as people were starting to load up this year. And he has actually grown to 26.3% ownership. So a lot of people actually have him in the team. And here's some reasons as well why you may want to pick him or may not as well. So yeah, obviously the advantages with Stones, he plays for Manchester City. The defense, if he gets minutes, it is a very solid defense. Manchester City won the league last year, obviously have a very good defense there. And yeah, attacking threat he does oppose as well. If he does go into that kind of inverted fullback kind of role that he's playing towards the end of last season, dropping into midfield, he gets further up the pitch and does get a few more goals potentially and stuff like that, which is obviously a huge plus with him. The fixtures for Manchester City at the start of the season are absolutely brilliant. Obviously them being the best team in the league from last season, the fixtures, whoever they come up against, they will be favourites. But for the first 5, they couldn't really have asked for nicer fixtures for themselves, and definitely to get off to a flying start if they do. So yeah, the fixtures in game week 1, Burnley away, which is very good with very good fixture to start the season off. Second game week, then they do have Newcastle at home. Slightly tougher fixture, but you would still favour Manchester City, especially at home. Sheffield United, newly promoted team. in the third game, and it is going to be away from home. That is a decent fixture as well. Fulham at home in game week 4. You couldn't ask for a nicer fixture there either. West Ham away will be a little bit more difficult, but a very, very nice opening 5 fixtures for Manchester City. So we've talked a bit about the advantages with John Stones. Let's take a look at some of the disadvantages, and maybe a little bit more of disadvantages than advantages. Looking at the disadvantages, he is not fully nailed on. If you do have watched or played FPL for the last few years, you will know Pep Roulette. He likes to change up his team a lot. He doesn't really like to stick with the same players every single week, where we've seen with some of the likes of even a Newcastle team or a Brentford team, they seem to stick for the same players. Pep Roulette is something that will come into play. He will not be playing every single game. We just know that. You should expect that if you're going to be picking a player like John Stones in your FPL team. So yeah, he's not fully nailed on. You won't be guaranteeing he's going to play every single week. If he does, absolutely brilliant. But for the most part, he will rotate with, whether it be Rico Lewis or Kyle Walker, whoever the case may be, he will be rotating there as well. He's a little bit more expensive at 5.5 million. I would say there is some better options. Looking at the likes of Luke Shaw at 5.5, who should be more nailed on, plays for Manchester United. I just think you can potentially spend the money better than him. I'm not saying he's a bad option. I've had him in some drafts myself a lot. His attacking threat is something that I would keep an eye on because it is very tempting. But I just potentially think there could be better options with John Stones. And he didn't really... it was kind of towards the end of last season where he became a good pick. He didn't really do it for the whole season. Obviously, only 7 clean sheets last season because of the amount of game time he got. 2 goals, 2 assists, which is pretty impressive for the games he did play, and got 93 points overall last season. So I just think there could be a bit more safe options to go for. Not calling John Stones a bad pick by all means. If you want to go for him, absolutely do so. But I just don't know if he's fully someone I'm happy with in my team. So the next player I'm going to be talking about is going to be Christopher Nkunku of Chelsea. Now, this is a very interesting pick. Nearly 20% owned, so 1 in 5 FPL teams do seem to have him in their team, which is pretty interesting to be fair, considering he hasn't played in the Prem before. But yeah, let's take a look at the advantages of Christopher Nkunku. He obviously has great potential to be a very, very good FPL asset. Coming in at 7.5 million, he's pretty cheap, especially for the highest score in the Bundesliga last season. He could potentially as well be on penalties. We do expect him to be on pens for Chelsea for this coming season. And the fixtures for Chelsea are absolutely brilliant. As you can see below me, or not below me, beside me, the fixtures are very, very good for Chelsea, which is obviously a huge plus with Christopher Nkunku if you have him in your team or for whatever reason or whatever. So yeah, in game week 1, Liverpool at home, it isn't the worst fixture, but it is pretty difficult to start the season off. But at home, they could favour themselves. The last few matches have been 0-0 draws, so maybe we could be seeing another one of them. In the second game, they have West Ham away, which obviously isn't ideal. Going to the Olympic Stadium, it is a very, very nice stadium. And it can be tough to get a result there, but you'd back Chelsea if they are on form to go ahead and do so. After that, that's when things kind of take a turn for the best. Luton at home to the third game week, very, very nice fixture. Really, really, really nice fixture there. Newly promoted team, should be expecting some goals there. Christopher Nkunku should be an option there. Nottingham Forest at home in game week 4 as well is a very, very nice fixture, especially if you want to have an attacker for that. Nkunku could be your man, who knows. Then they have Bournemouth in game week 5 away from home. Again, another lower side in the Premier League that you would be expecting Chelsea to go ahead and get some goals and get some points against them. So yeah, but last season we'll have a look as well. Nkunku did come away with 16 goals, was the highest scorer in the Bundesliga, and obviously got 4 assists as well there. But yeah, we're not going to do points and stuff, work out what that will be in the Prem. We're going to see obviously what he is going to do in the Prem. So having looked at the advantages, let's take a look at some of the disadvantages that may come with Christopher Nkunku. So obviously for Chelsea, they have a lot of attacking players, a lot of good players in their team. And I'm just not fully sure, is he going to be fully nailed on? There's no guarantee in minutes there. Obviously, they played a hefty price tag for Nkunku, and in pre-season he has been good. But for the most part, we're not fully certain if he is going to be nailed on. I would expect him to, but there's no guarantee there with that as well. He's never played in the Premier League before, so obviously we don't have how he'll adapt, if he will adapt, and how well he will perform. I do expect he's a top player. He is going to go on to do good things, I'm sure, at Chelsea, but we will obviously have to wait and see. And yeah, just looking at, is there better options than him for minutes guaranteed? and kind of just security of, game time, I suppose. If you do want a few more risky picks, he's a brilliant option, has great potential for massive hauls throughout the season. But the likes of Ollie Watkins for 0.5 more, I'm just kind of leaning towards that at the moment, just because of the security of minutes and the fact that we know how he plays in the Prem. We know what we're getting. Whereas with Nkunku, it is a little bit of question marks at this moment in time. So the next player I'm going to be talking about is going to be Alexis Mac Allister of Liverpool now. Now, this one is a little bit surprising. I did not believe him to be, or did not expect him to be 15% owned, which I actually found a little bit surprising, if I am being honest. But yeah, last season did get 140 points, got 10 goals, 2 assists, and kept 10 clean sheets, which obviously midfielders get clean sheet points, but it only being 1 as opposed to defenders 4. But yeah, looks really nailed on for Liverpool at the moment, at this moment in time. Obviously, Liverpool midfield, they were struggling last season, so I expect him to get a lot of minutes this season. And obviously the fixtures as well for Liverpool are not the worst. They're decent as far as fixtures for Liverpool go. And yeah, he's just kind of a little bit of a boring option in my opinion. I just think you could do a lot better with 6 million than going for someone like Alexis Mac Allister. The plus side is he does have a lot of minutes guaranteed. Well, not guaranteed, but you'd expect. Looking at the fixtures then, Chelsea away in the first game. It isn't ideal, but it is not the worst fixture, I suppose. Bournemouth at home in the second game is pretty decent, which is, always nice to have Bournemouth at home in the first few games. Newcastle away from home in the third game, which is a very difficult one actually for the likes of Liverpool. You never know, they could get a result there. We'll have to wait and see. Villa at home in game week 4, which isn't the easiest game, but as at home at Anfield, you would expect them to do some good things there. And Wolves away from home in game week 5 isn't the worst fixture either. So the fixtures are decent. He's coming in at 6 million, which isn't a bad price. He looks nailed on. What are the disadvantages then? So at Liverpool, he looks to be a little bit more defensive. Liverpool in the midfield were lacking last season, and I think they want to just secure things up a little bit more in there. He is going to be playing a lot deeper than the way when he was for Brighton. At times he'd go into the 10 role, all that kind of stuff. Obviously he can't cover there, but I just do believe he will be playing a lot deeper for Liverpool, which obviously will bring his attacking returns down an awful lot. And also, he will be off penalties as far as we're aware. Was on penalties for Brighton, but obviously Mohamed Salah at Liverpool will be the penalty taker and continue to be. So he will lose that, and a lot of his goals last season were from penalties. So obviously bringing them numbers down, I just don't really like him as a pick, to be quite honest. Better options, absolutely. I think even the likes of Gibbs White is a better option on penalties. Nottingham Forest Talesman, he should be getting a lot more returns than that, you'd imagine. Even when you look at Brian Mbeumo, any of the Brighton assets in March, Gross or Matoma, 0.5 more obviously, but I just do think they look better options in your team if you want to go less than 6 million, even in CISO, Dwight McNeil. I just think there is a lot of better options than Alexis Mac Allister this season. Maybe he is going to turn out to be a brilliant pick in FPL. Who knows? We will just have to wait and see. But just based off a few things, I just don't know if at the start of the season especially, if he is the right man to go for. And finally, the last player we're going to be talking about today is going to be Marcus Rashford of Manchester United. Now, as a Manchester United fan, this does pain me a little bit, but I just don't think he is the best option to go for. Potentially may not be the best option to go for. Let's take a look at some of the advantages with Rashford. So obviously, he looks to be Manchester United's most promising player for the next few years and stuff. Obviously just signed a contract extension as well, so is going to be nailed on, you would imagine, for the majority of the season. The fixtures for Manchester United are very, very good as well going into the season. Wolves at home to kick things off is a brilliant fixture to start with. Spurs away from home. Spurs defence, they don't look great at the moment, especially judging off pre-season. And Postecoglou still trying to get things right there at Spurs. So yeah, could be very, very decent game for United away from Spurs. But yeah, third game then, they do have Nottingham Forest at home, which is a nice fixture as well. Arsenal away from home, then it does get a lot tougher. That'll be a very difficult game for United for the game week 4. And then moving on to game week 5, Brighton at home. It can be won. It is going to be a difficult game, but United at Old Trafford, you should be expecting them to win that. But yeah, looking at that as well, Marcus Rashford could be playing more on the left-hand side this season, which could suit him, because we've seen he scored loads of goals and he looks better when he does play on the left. he enjoys his football more playing on the left, and it could be a very, very big positive for him. But we will obviously have to wait and see with Rasmus Højlund what effects that will have on him. So looking at the disadvantages then as well, goals reduced with Højlund potentially. Rashford's being the main man scoring for Manchester United could be reduced a little bit if Rasmus Højlund does turn into that prolific goal scorer that Manchester United are looking for. Maybe this will help Rashford. It could link them up. They could score more goals overall, and Rashford keep his number up there. But 17 goals last season is very impressive in the Premier League, especially playing most of it off the left. 7 assists as well, very, very nice. And 205 points in FPL was absolutely astonishing for Rashford last season. But yeah, poor preseason as well. It has been for Marcus Rashford. Not a lot of game time, and I don't believe any goals. I could be wrong in that one. But he's just looked a little bit off at the moment. Again, there's kind of rotation and stuff in preseason. Not expecting him to play every game and score every game. But just something to note as well, he hasn't been absolutely brilliant in preseason. And yeah, the final kind of disadvantage, I suppose, is he better than Bruno as an FPL option? Currently in my draft, I do have Marcus Rashford. So just for clarification, I don't think he's a bad pick. I think he's a really, really good pick. And he's second highest owned at 42.2%. For midfielders. But I just think when I do actually think about it a little bit more, Bruno for 0.5 million cheaper could potentially be the play. He could be involved more with Mount and Casemiro behind him this season if Højlund is up top feeding him goals in behind. I don't know, it could be an interesting one to think. It's not saying Marcus Rashford is a bad option, but for 9 million as well, he is a little bit expensive. It is just something to think of. But Marcus Rashford, not saying he's a bad pick, absolutely love him, but it is just something to think, is it going to affect him, and how will it affect him? But yeah, not saying any of these players in this video were bad picks. By all means, they could all go on to score 200 plus points in FPL this season, just based off some of the facts and some of the kind of uncertainty around these players. Some of them are just worth thinking about as well if you are building your FPL team and have some of these in there. But if you did enjoy, a massive thank you for the support recently on the channel. Drop a like, subscribe as well if you did enjoy. Try and hit 5k as soon as possible. Much appreciated, and I'll catch you boys next time with the next one. Peace.